A lot of trade speculation right now surrounding the Cubs, and we've been trying to cover that on a daily basis here on the Cubs baseball channel. One player that I think you need to keep an eye on is Jaxon Wiggins, and I saw him pitch last night, and again, he was super impressive to me, and it wasn't even his best outing. I'm going to tell you why the Cubs might trade him, and it might not just be for another starting pitcher, which is what we've kind of speculated this entire season. And one of the reasons that I say that is that the Cubs reportedly checked in on Rafael before that big trade from the Red Sox to the Giants. And how about this? 21 years later, slamming Sammy back to Wrigley Field. All that and more right here on the Cubs baseball channel. I ask you guys to do this every day because I love you for doing it. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, share with your Cubs friends, hit the bell, do all those things. And let's talk bad about the Cardinals. No, we're not going to do that. Just look who's in first. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs baseball channel. Thank you for being here today, and let's get right to it. I want to start with this. Jaxon Wiggins. He is one of the hottest Cubs prospects that they have in their entire organization. Right-handed pitcher, throws gas. He's had a phenomenal season. Pitched 4 innings in a start in the Deep South in Biloxi, Mississippi, and looked a little fatigued towards the end of the outing. But against the best team in the Southern League, he was dominant once again. And you look at him and you go, okay, 4-pitch pitcher, fastball obviously is a plus pitch. It is a legitimate fastball that's going to get outs at every level he pitches at. You know, you look at the changeup and the curveball and the slider and all of them work. He's not going to be in Double-A much longer. I don't know what the path for his future looks like because I don't know where he's going to be. If I was the Cubs, I'd be serious about moving him to the bullpen at the major leagues. Now, the bullpen's done up until yesterday's game has done a phenomenal job. So, you know, it's not like there's a lot of spots right now in the big league bullpen, but it's a good problem to have. So the Cubs do have some time to keep developing Wiggins, and they don't have to rush him to AAA Iowa, although I feel like that's coming soon. But the other thing is when you look at the potential of trading for whatever, right? And I'm going to say that the Cubs have a need for an ace starting pitcher, right? Braves are saying, well, we're not going to trade Chris Sale. Okay, yeah, unless you trade him, right? You know, the 2 guys in Arizona we keep looking at, you know, Kelly and Gallen, right? Both of those guys are really good. And both of them would be a great fit for the Cubs. Zach Gallen hasn't had the season that he has over the last 3 years. Maybe a change of scenery would do him good in a walk year. Because a lot of pitchers do better in the walk year because they're locked in on it. He hasn't. So maybe, you know, you get him and you put him in the starting rotation and he finds himself. History tells you that the guy can pitch. The reason I'm saying this is that the Cubs are going to have to give up something to get something. And Wiggins is, I think, one of, if not their best pitching prospect. And I'm not counting Cade Horton because he's in the major leagues already. Now, the other guy I've talked a lot about is Owen Casey, and all of a sudden he is just ripping the cover off of the baseball in Iowa. Strike totals down, walks are up slightly. He's going to strike out, but he's hitting home runs and extra base hits, and you know he's starting to look like the guy that we think he's going to eventually be. For 22 years old in Iowa, AAA, the guy's well above schedule. So those are the 2 guys, but saw Wiggins pitch again, super impressed with him and just curious about what his future is going to be, because I think it's going to be a good future if he stays healthy. And there's teams around the league that are really focused in on what Wiggins could bring to their team. Now, the reason I said this, that it could potentially be in a deal that maybe isn't just for pitching, is that the Cubs reportedly checked in on Rafael Devers before he was dealt to the Giants. And a lot of people have tried to wonder or have tried to speculate. I guess I've wondered, but they've tried to speculate on, what the Cubs are going to do at third base. And it really feels like they like Matt Shaw, but they're just not sure if he's ready yet. He's held his own. And what if he ends up as a utility guy on this team because they go out and they make a blockbuster trade? Now, they were talking about Devers. I don't know that the Cubs were really serious about Devers. Maybe they talked to him. People were saying that, and it was really Peter Abraham of the Boston Globe that kind of wrote about this, but teams like the Blue Jays and the Padres and the Atlanta Braves were interested. But more teams than that, including the Cubs and the Mariners. Devers is a great player. There's a reason why he's paid so much. It's because he is a great player. But do you really think the Cubs were going to pay $250 million over the next 8 years for him? I just don't see that being the case, for him. And you can remember the whole flap about Devers started when the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman and then moved him off of third base and made him a DH. The Cubs need a third baseman, I think. And the fact that they were talking to the Red Sox about Devers tells you that they're looking for a third baseman. We mentioned Austin Riley a couple of days ago as someone that you maybe could get traded if Atlanta decides to pack it in on the season. Feel like the Braves are in position to make a move. They're getting healthy, and they were picked as one of the teams to win the National League this year, but they haven't lived up to that. But they've got Acuna back. They're getting their teams getting healthy. So I don't know if that's a deal that they would make. But if the Diamondbacks are giving up players, maybe Suarez, who knows what it's going to come down to. But it just feels like the Cubs are going to make some moves here. Everybody kind of speculating that. We've talked about this a lot on here as well. The front office is under a ton of pressure to win. And the fact that they were looking at Devers tells you, and kind of just like the way that they've talked about Shaw, is that you get the feel that they like him, but they just don't think he's ready yet. Now, I was one of the people who thought that Sammy Sosa should be welcome back to Chicago, and I'm glad that he has been. And he came to spring training, but for the first time in 21 years, he came to Wrigley Field. Now, I'm not defending anything to do with steroids. I've been adamantly opposed to the steroids there. I wish baseball would have made it tougher to do it back then, kind of like it is now. They kind of turned a blind eye, and the players took advantage of it, right? But with that said, I enjoyed watching Sammy Sosa play. I loved him. I mean, that was kind of like my heyday of Cubdom, I got into the Cubs in 84. 87 was one of my favorite years, even though they didn't win a lot. I loved watching the Hawk and listening to Harry and Steve on WGN every day. And, and then Sammy came along, and that was exciting. And the home run chase was amazing. And then, he left on bad terms, and it took a long time to get back. So it was cool seeing him back on TV around the stadium. And I really enjoyed it. They said that, what was it, that he hit a home run in his last game as a Cub, and then he was traded to Baltimore. His line with the Cubs is he hit 284 and had a 358 on base percentage, and he had 1,400 plus runs batted in and 181 stolen bases. And he also hit 545 home runs, which was amazing. I mean, if you weren't around back then, and it was just like every day you just turn on the the TV, and it was either him or McGuire going deep. But it was so fun to watch, and it was cool to see him back, after everything, and at Wrigley Field again. Tom Ricketts greeted him when he got there. It just felt good, and people loved him at the Cubs convention. He signed a ton of autographs there. Obviously, spring training, he was there for that too. So welcome back, Sammy. And for those of you that were at the game, it's pretty cool to have Sammy Sosa back in attendance. All right, Cubs will take on the Mariners again. Kind of a weird matchup. It's one that you don't see a lot because, of all the interleague, who would ever think that the Cubs and the Mariners would be a matchup we'd have? But now there's no, I guess it really doesn't even feel like there's interleague anymore because we took the DH and we put it in both leagues. They baseball at Wrigley the way that it should be, and it'll be Emerson Hancock for the Mariners, 3-2 record and a 4.48 ERA against Cade Horton of the Cubs, 3-1 with a 3.47 earned run average. I'm telling you, when Horton figures it out the way that Pete Crow Armstrong has figured it out, you're going to really, really, really be glad that he's in a Cubs uniform, and that is a 1:20 Central Time start for the Cubs and the Seattle Mariners. Final thing I want to say is just how much I appreciate all you guys that watch the show or listen to the show every day, and how cool it is when sometimes you'll come by and find me and say hi. And that was the case yesterday. I got the phone right here. Look at that. Billy Beckham, thank you for coming by and saying hi and hanging with me. But all of you guys, appreciate you so much for being part of this Cubs baseball channel family, for hanging out on a daily basis. It was great to meet him and talk about the Cubs, and it is a pleasure to tell you guys my thoughts on our favorite team. And it's funny how there are Cubs fans everywhere you go. Really is special. All right, thanks, guys. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, share with your friends. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Go Cubs.